Hello friends, in this video we are going to make a jewel tone turquoise geode tumbler. So I'm starting with my 20-ounce traditional tumbler and I'm going to base paint the entire cup with one color of spray paint. This color will be a really good base for all the glitters I'm planning on using, and it's going to save us a lot of work having to base coat each individual glitter that we place on this tumbler. So once that spray paint is dry, I'm going to take my 2-inch painter's tape and I'm going to do a diagonal geode pattern on this tumbler. So we're going to do our tape in a, as you can see there, kind of like a diagonal pattern. So I'm going to put those two next to each other, and then I wanted the section to be just a little bit larger. So I'm going to take a 1-inch piece of painter's tape and put that right next to those other two pieces. Now this is just mapping out where your geode lines are going to go. So you can make this part of your cup as big or as small as you want. If you want to do more colors in your geode, you might want to make this section a little larger. It's really just your preference. Like, there's no wrong way to create your geodes. You can do as many colors as you want. You can make your shape whatever you want. You can do big areas, small areas, doesn't matter. So once I've got my tape down, I'm going to take a Sharpie and draw a rough sketch or idea of what my shape is going to be. This does not have to be exact, just to give you, kind of a guideline for when you take your craft knife and cut along that line. So I'm going to do that on both sides, and then I'm going to remove the outside piece of tape. So the edge that is straight, if that makes sense. So then once I've got that cut, I'm going to take a piece of tape to put along the bottom of the tumbler, because we want the geode lines to continue on the bottom as well. We don't want the geode to just stop and then have a solid bottom. So I'm going to put that piece of tape there, cut my line, and then I'll remove that piece of tape that has the straight edge on it, so that all of the edges of our tape are geode or wavy or cut, if that makes sense. So now we've got this blank area of tumbler here, and this is going to be our main star color. For this, I'm going to use Trendsetter, which is one of the colors in the collab palette that I did with Peachy Olive Glitters. And to adhere this section of glitter, I'm actually going to use my UV resin. You can use this, you can use regular epoxy, you can use glitter glue, whatever adhesive you want is totally fine. I've been doing the UV resin glitter application method lately, and it works out great. Mostly I do that because I'm just too lazy to mix epoxy. So I'm going to put a thin layer of that all over my tumbler. And then again, I'm using Trendsetter from Peachy Olive Glitters, and I'm just going to cover this entire section of the cup with my glitter. And once that's on, I'm going to let it spin on my turner in front of my UV lamp. I will link this UV lamp for you in the description box. This is the best lamp ever. So I just turn it on, set it up, let my cup spin in front of the lamp for maybe about 10-ish minutes. And then I'm going to go through and remove all of my tape. Make sure that my glitter is dry, and then I'm going to roll my cup on my piece of paper to flatten the glitter out just a little bit. Now at this stage, if you want to, you can spray seal your glitter to seal it in place. We're going to do that later as well. I didn't do that. I just brushed off the excess, again, rolled my cup in my paper to flatten the glitter out as much as I could, and then we'll spray seal everything at the end. But if you want to, you can spray seal now as well. Totally up to you. For my geode lines today, I'm going to be using Mod Podge, and the reason I'm using Mod Podge is because it dries really quickly, so that will allow us to work through our colors more quickly than if we were to use like a glitter glue or something that has a longer dry time. So I'm going to go in with my Mod Podge. We don't need to tint it because we've already base painted our entire tumbler. So I'm going to go in here, and you can see that I'm leaving a little gap in between Trendsetter and then my line of Mod Podge. That's because I want to put a lighter glitter color up against Trendsetter, and I want to kind of work darkest to lightest as much as I can so that I don't get my dark colors contaminating my lighter colors. So I did that line. For this line, I'm using Scribbles from Peachy Olive Glitters, and I'm just going to continue that. You can see kind of just like pouncing my brush in a similar pattern to what I cut out initially. So we're following that same line that we created in the beginning, and then adding my glitter. And then I'm going to go through with my chip brush and just brush off that excess. After about maybe 20 to 30 minutes of that Mod Podge layer drying, I'm going to go through, brush off all that excess, and then we can continue on with our next colors. So I'm going to go in with my lighter color of glitter here in between those two dark colors. You would always rather put a lighter color of glitter on top of a darker color because you're not really going to see that contamination too much, if that makes sense. So this color is CK9, and this is from Olive's Outlet, which is now combined on the Peachy Olive Glitters website. So if you go to peachyoliveglitters.com, I will have everything linked and listed down below in the description box for you, by the way. But if you go to the Peachy Olive website, you can buy regular Peachy Olive glitters and Olive's Outlet glitters. So they're all now in one place, which is really great. I think makes it really easy to shop. So I covered that strip with CK9. Now I'm going in with my next little strip of Mod Podge, and you can see I switched to a smaller brush. Just depending on the shapes you're creating and how you want the geode to look, you can use a smaller brush, a bigger brush, a fluffy brush, whatever you want. Like I said, there's really no wrong way to like create this pattern. So just go for it. I feel like a lot of people say they're super intimidated by geodes. I was one of them. But once you do them, once you make them and just kind of like give yourself to the process and let it be what it's going to be, they get to be really, really fun. Like combining all these colors and creating your shapes and getting to put a million glitters on one cup, which is my favorite thing to do. It's just really, really fun. So if you haven't tried a geode yet, I really encourage you to just go for it, trust the process, and just have fun and see what happens. So that last color I put on was Vintage from Peachy Olive Glitters. All of these colors can be found on the Peachy Olive Glitters website, and I, again, will have them all listed and linked down below for you. And now I'm going in with Turks, and I'm just going to continue following this same shape and creating my geode pattern. This process, again, is really repetitive and just kind of whatever you make it. So I'm just going to follow those lines, leaving space if I want to do a lighter color like I'm doing here. I'm going to put a lighter color in between Turks and Miami. And we're just going to continue until this entire area is filled with glitter. All right, so once our tumbler is covered in geode beautiful glitter, I'm going to let that sit and dry overnight, and then I'm going to spray seal my tumbler with Rust-Oleum clear glass spray, and I'm going to do 3 solid coats of that. I probably could have done maybe 4 or 5 coats to really seal the glitter in. I did have a tiny bit of movement, but seal that glitter the best you can, and then you want to add 2 coats of epoxy to your tumbler. I'm using my Flynn Sisters Fast Cure epoxy here, and after those 2 coats are cured, you should be ready to go in and do some sanding. So this is what my cup looks like after 2 coats. I'm going to first clean up the top rim of my tumbler with my craft knife, and then I'm going to go in and do all of my sanding. So for my sanding, I'm using a 120 grit sanding block, and then I'm going to use I think I used a 200 maybe, just to buff out all of those rough sanding marks. So now, after our cup has been washed, we are ready to line our geode, and this is always my favorite part, using the paint pens to really define those lines, and I feel like it just brings the design together, finishes it off, and just makes it look like really, really cool. So my favorite paint pens to use for this process are from Posca. I get them at Michael's. You can also get them on Amazon, but Michael's always has coupons that you can use, so I like to buy them all at one time. So for this first outer line, I'm using my big thick black Posca paint pen, and I'm going to, as you can see, just follow that line that we created with the glitter. Now this is really nice because if you have like a little bit of stray glitter, or if your line isn't super duper clean, you can just cover it up with your paint pen. Now when I do my geodes too, I like to vary the weight of the lines that I have. So like this line is going to be super duper thick. I'll throw in some medium weight lines, some super thin lines. I just really like the variation and dimension of having different lines, but if all of your paint pens are the same size, that's totally fine too. This is what I love about making geodes, is that they all turn out different. You can do literally 1,000,001 combinations and really just like let your creativity shine. So that's my little speech about geodes. So my next line, I'm going to use a white pen. This is the 3M one. Then I'm going to use a 5M, so a little bit thicker line. And I'm just going to go through varying my colors. I always try to use a contrasting color from the two glitters that I'm putting the line in between. So like this is dark navy and like a brassy gold color. So I used a light like aqua pen because I really want the lines to contrast and I want you to be able to see them over the glitter. So I'm just going to go through and outline all of my geode lines with my paint pens. I will have all of the names and everything for the paint pens listed and linked down below in the description box, by the way. I will link them on Amazon and at Michael's so you can find them wherever you would prefer to shop. Once we've got all of our shapes and everything outlined with our paint pens, we want to make sure that we let them completely dry. I usually let mine sit overnight before I epoxy. In this case, I let them sit for about maybe 30 to 40 minutes because I'm going to add a decal before I go in with my final coats of epoxy, and I need to put some UV resin on my cup to shine it back up again. I'm choosing to do UV resin because it's faster and I'm impatient, but if you would prefer to do a regular coat of epoxy over your paint lines and then add your decal and then do a final coat, you can do that too. But I just was excited to like see this all finished, so I'm going the quick method here. So I'm doing this also because the decal I'm going to use is a clear decal that's white backed. So I want my tumbler to be shiny so that we don't see all of these dull sanded areas underneath the clear portions of our decal. If you're just using a regular like cut out vinyl decal that you cut on your Cricut or Silhouette, you do not need to shine your cup up before you add that decal. You can add the decal and then go right in with your epoxy. But I use some UV resin really quick to shine my cup up. So put it all over my tumbler and again, let it spin in front of that UV lamp until it was dry. And now I can add my decal and add my final coat of epoxy. So that saved me a couple hours of waiting to get this tumbler done. So this decal is another decal that I released with Peachy Olive Glitters. This is available on their website. I will link it down below for you. But it just says, do what brings you joy. And I think that's something that's really important to remember going into a new year. Maybe we're all setting goals and we're kind of thinking about where we want to go in the next year, what we want to do. I know I certainly am. So I think it's just a nice reminder. Always do what makes you happy and what brings you joy. So I put that decal on using the hinge method, as you can see, and now I'm going to go in with my final coats of epoxy. So for this final coat, I'm using Artist Cure epoxy, again from Flynn Sisters Supply Shop, and I'm just going to do a nice hefty coat here, probably about maybe 20-ish milliliters, and that was it. Once that coat of epoxy is all cured, we are all finished. So here is the final Geode Tumbler design. I am in love with this color palette. I love this diagonal shape. It's a little different than the traditional like two-part Geode Tumbler. I had so much fun making it, and I love how this white back decal pops on this super dark background. This entire cup just really brings me joy. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my new videos. I upload brand new Tumbler tutorials every Tuesday and Saturday, and I've got some really great things coming in 2024, and you don't want to miss them. All right, thank you so much for watching my video, and a huge thank you to my channel and Elite Mentorship Group members. You guys make all of this possible. Okay, that's it. See you in the next one. Love you. Bye.